1.
Jewish History in Italy from 1939 to 1945. Presentation by Dr. Laura Charles Lafer and Professor Rabbi Uriel Simpson.
The racial laws. In 1938, Mussolini, the Italian dictator, passed a series of anti-Jewish legislation. Jews were fired from government jobs, forbidden to intermarry with the Italians, dismissed from the army, foreign Jews were deported, and Jews were removed from positions in the mass media. However, the Italians were lax with enforcing this legislation.
A newspaper headline following the enacting of the racial laws. The headline reads, Le leggi per la difesa della razza approvate dal Consiglio dei Ministri. In English, the legislation, the racial laws, was approved by the cabinet. The beginning of the war. When the war began, Mussolini wanted to assure Germany that Italy was a committed member of the Axis. To prove his loyalty, he imprisoned the entire population of foreign-born Jews, who didn't leave after their Edict of Expulsion was signed in 1938.
Mussolini and Hitler met in Rome in 1938. The Jewish problem was likely discussed. The deportations. 8,869 Jews were deported from Italy. Most of them went to the death camp Auschwitz-Birkenau and were gassed upon arrival. Many Jews turned to Italians to help them escape Italy. However, the Nazis, wanting to prevent this from occurring, offered twice the sum of money Jews were willing to pay for their escape. All the Italians had to do was rat out the Jewish customers.
Jews were deported via cattle cars on the basement floor of Milan's central train station. Italians and the Jews. Jews were incredibly integrated into the Italian society and were viewed by their countrymen as equals. Thus, the Italians were more sympathetic towards their plight than other countries and were lax with enforcing anti-Semitic legislation. Jews were not put in ghettos or deported from Italian-controlled areas until 1943, when Mussolini returned to power and began to deport Jews under direct orders from the Nazis.
A Jewish-Italian family. The first arrests of Italian-born Jews. On June 10, 1940, Italy officially joined the war on Germany's side. Many Jews were arrested or put in supervised residences. During the last 2 years of World War II, Italian civilians were instrumental in protecting the Jews of Italy. 80% of the Jewish population in Italy survived due to the gallant efforts of these righteous Gentiles.
A photo of Gino Bartali, an Italian cyclist who saved numerous Jews' lives during the Holocaust. Mussolini's fall and revival. In 1943, Mussolini was forced to resign and was arrested. With Mussolini's fall, the Jews expected the Italians to rescind the anti-Jewish legislation Mussolini enacted in 1938, but they held firm for several more years. When Mussolini's successor signed a ceasefire agreement with the Allies, Germany occupied Italy and reinstated Mussolini as a puppet ruler of the North Italian Social Republic.
A photo of the Gran Sasso raid, which freed Mussolini from his makeshift prison. Jews working in the labor camp Gorizia in Italian-controlled territory.
The Jews of Middle Eastern lands. Italy colonized Libya in 1911. At the time, there were 21,000 Jews living in Libya, with the majority in Tripoli. By World War II, almost 31,000 Jews called Libya home. The race laws, which were enacted in Italy, were also applied to Italy's colonial possessions. Mussolini instituted the Sfallamento policy, where Jews from the Cyrenaica region of Libya were divided into 3 groups.
The deportation of Libya's Jews. 3 groups were Jews with French citizenship or under the Tunisian protectorate. They were sent to camps in Algeria and Tunisia. Jews with British citizenship were held in transit camps until the Germans occupied Libya. They were then sent to camp in Europe. Jews with Libyan citizenship, especially those from the Cyrenaica region, were deported to concentration camps in Tripolitania. Libyan Jewish refugees.
The Holocaust in Libya. The Jews in the Tripolitania region were not sent to detention camps like Jada. Rather, they were required to work in labor camps. Jada was known as the most brutal of any camp in Italy. A total of 2,584 were deported to Jada, 562 of whom died due to the miserable conditions faced. A large group of Libyan Jews who held British citizenship were sent to Bergen-Belsen, and miraculously, they all survived. A photo of the Jado concentration camp.
The Jews of Ethiopia. The Beta Israel and Falas Murah communities in Ethiopia were liberated in 1941 by the British before Mussolini could harm them. The Ethiopian Jews approached the emperor Haile Selassie with a proposal to take in Jews fleeing from the Holocaust in Europe. Some Jews, among other Greek refugees, arrived in 1943, but the proposal of the Ethiopian Jews is thought to have been too late. The Jewish community of Ethiopia.
Summary. Why did so many Jews survive in Italy? There are two main reasons the majority of Italian Jews survived the Holocaust. The Italians were initially reluctant to deport their Jews. By the time the Germans controlled northern Italy, the Allies had already landed on Italian soil. The Italian Jews were very well integrated and viewed by most Italians as full members of society. Thus, Jews were hidden and protected by many Italian righteous Gentiles.
Primo Levi, an Italian survivor. Primo Levi was born to a Jewish family in Turin, Italy. While his mother and sister hid during the Holocaust, he joined a partisan group. But when the group was betrayed, he was sent to a deportation camp in Vassili and then Auschwitz. Primo Levi's book, Survival in Auschwitz, is one of the most famous Holocaust books and was only written 3 years following his liberation. Tragically, he committed suicide in 1987 by jumping from the stairwell of his childhood home.
A photo of Primo Levi.